Episode 33, titled Prepare Incident Response Programs That Actually Work, we reframe incident response as a cross-functional program rather than a one-off playbook pasted into a wiki. Programs create predictable outcomes because they align people, authority, tooling, and cadence long before the first alert screams at 2 in the morning. A working program clarifies who decides, who does, and how the rest of the organization stays informed without clogging the lane. It builds muscle memory by drilling the same patterns across varied scenarios, so actions become calm, verified movements instead of improvised heroics. The goal is simple but demanding: a living system that assembles quickly, contains precisely, preserves evidence, meets legal duties, and records choices that stand up months later when audits and retrospectives test every step. Roles become real when responsibility is spelled out with a responsible, accountable, consulted, informed matrix, spelled RACI on first mention and ROSI thereafter, that names backups for every seat. Security operations may be responsible for triage and initial containment. The incident commander is accountable for cross-team coordination and decisive calls. Legal and privacy are consulted for notification posture. Executive sponsors and defected product leaders are informed at defined intervals. Backups must be explicit and on rotation calendars so a sick day or a vacation does not stall the assembly. For high-impact categories, embed named deputies from networking, identity, cloud, and endpoint so handoffs never depend on a single specialist. Publish the ROSI where on-call staff actually live, within case tooling and paging notes, so no one hunts a spreadsheet while minutes matter. Communication channels are the arteries of response, and they must be stood up and secured before trouble arrives. A dedicated, encrypted chat space provides the running log for technical steps, while an audio bridge or video room gives the commander the fastest way to cut through ambiguity. Paging tools connect severity levels to on-call rotations with escalation paths that march automatically if someone does not acknowledge within a defined window. Separate channels carry executive updates and customer-facing drafts so sensitive details do not leak into broad rooms. Access to channels should be governed by just-in-time rules that expire automatically after the event to reduce residual risk. When the plumbing is predictable, page, assemble, speak, record, teams settle into the cadence that makes smart work possible under pressure. Detection plumbing moves from theory to action when case creation flows from the right sources with the right triage criteria. Security Information and Event Management, spelled SIEM on first mention and SIM thereafter, provides correlated signals. Endpoint Detection and Response, spelled EDR on first mention and EDR thereafter, contributes process-level detail. Cloud audit logs add control plane visibility, and identity providers surface authentication anomalies. Case creation should require minimum viable evidence: who, what, where, and when, and attach enrichment from asset inventories and change records automatically. Triage criteria separate alerts that deserve containment from those that earn monitoring, using calibrated gates that any analyst can apply consistently. A program thrives when a serious alert becomes a case within minutes and a case becomes a crude incident without clerical gymnastics. Evidence handling begins with forensic readiness, not with triage panic. Chain of custody requires that artifacts, logs, memory images, packet captures, screenshots, and configuration diffs be labeled with time, origin, collector identity, and storage location, and be preserved in tamper-evident repositories. Forensic readiness also means log retention windows that match likely investigations, synchronized clocks across systems, and tested procedures for collecting volatile data without destroying context. Access to evidence must be roll-gated, recorded, and periodically audited to protect privacy and preserve admissibility if legal matters follow. When the program treats evidence as a first-class deliverable, technical findings convert into credible narratives that withstand cross-examination later. Legal, privacy, and regulatory obligations are not sidebar concerns. They shape tempo and language during the event. Counsel clarifies privilege boundaries and record preservation duties. Privacy leaders evaluate whether data subject notifications apply and on what clocks. Compliance staff align actions with sector rules and contracts. Notification timelines differ by jurisdiction and counterparty, so the program must carry pre-built matrices that map incident types to required contacts and draft templates that avoid speculation while satisfying statutes. Record preservation rules should land early to prevent well-meaning cleanup from erasing artifacts. Coordination here prevents secondary harm, regulatory fines, breached contracts, or reputational hit from careless wording that can exceed the technical loss. Exercises turn paperwork into performance. Tabletop sessions walk the team through decision trees, role handoffs, and communication sequences using realistic scenarios tied to current risks. Technical drills validate tooling under load and timing assumptions under stress. Each exercise must end with concrete gaps, named owners, and dates, and the artifacts should be folded back into playbooks, paging notes, and training. Rotate scenarios that touch identity, endpoint, cloud, and data flows so every seam gets attention across a quarter. Measure the basics every time. Time to assemble, time to first containment action, time to verified recovery step, and quality of the timeline. Repetition makes speed ethical because it removes guesswork from the moments when judgment must be swift. Tooling should follow the workflow instead of dictating it, and the workflow must be documented end to end. Case management holds the incident record, role assignments, tasks, timestamps, and evidence links. Ticketing systems connect operational changes to approvers and maintenance windows. A knowledge base anchors playbooks, checklists, and decision queues with version history. Integrations matter. SIM and EDR create cases. Identity tools enforce access changes. Network and cloud platforms apply segmentation. Collaboration tools deliver status notes. Documentation should describe the happy path and the bailout path for when tools misbehave, including offline procedures for paging and evidence capture. When workflows match how responders think and move, tools multiply capacity instead of slowing it. A program must know whether it is getting faster, clearer, and more reliable, so metrics deserve discipline. Track time to assemble the core team after paging, time to first containment action that changes adversary success, time to verified recovery of a critical function, and adherence to playbook steps with reasons for deviations recorded plainly. Trend false positive rates for escalated cases, root cause categories, and the proportion of incidents that required out-of-cycle executive briefings. Use these numbers to tune rules, retire draggy steps, and direct training where friction shows. Share a short scorecard every month so leaders can tie investment to outcomes with evidence rather than anecdotes. Common pitfalls recur, and each has a predictable antidote. Role confusion emerges when titles float without authority. Fix it by publishing the RACI in the case tool and rehearsing handoffs until they are boring. Tool sprawl scatters evidence and decisions. Fix it by consolidating to a minimal set that integrates and by deprecating orphaned systems loudly. Stale contact trees stall assembly. Fix it with a weekly heartbeat that pings on-call endpoints and flags failures to human owners until they repair entries. Rotting playbooks drift from reality. Fix it by updating them after every drill and every real incident with the specific field names, commands, and screenshots responders actually used. Programs decay without maintenance, so maintenance becomes part of the program. Consider a concise scenario that shows decisions, artifacts, and approvals stitched together. A privileged login alert and a concurrent token reuse hit the seam within 60 seconds. The triage gate passes on asset criticality and identity role. The incident commander pages the on-call identity and application owners, and the crew assembles in 4 minutes on the secure bridge. Decision gates trigger step-up verification and, failing that, token revocation and temporary disablement for the account approved by the identity lead per the plan. Evidence capture begins. Authentication logs, token metadata, endpoint process trees, and recent change tickets are linked in the case. Privacy and legal join as consulted roles to evaluate notification thresholds. No regulated data is touched, so external notices are deferred. Within 18 minutes, access is contained, a service health check passes, and the timeline records each step with timestamps and responsible names. The strength of a program is visible in how it communicates without leaking or confusing. Technical channels capture detailed artifacts and hypotheses. An executive note summarizes scope, business impact, actions taken, and the next checkpoint time in a compact template. Customer-facing drafts, if required, live in a separate room with legal review and a single spokesperson identified. Confidential identifiers and keys never appear in broadcast messages. They remain in restricted case artifacts with need-to-know access. Communication cadence is predictable. First update, hourly updates, closure note. and each carries who owns the next move and when the next decision gate lands. When updates are structured and discrete, noise falls and trust rises. Program durability also depends on how it lands decisions after the event. Post-incident reviews should read like a ship's log, not a hymn of blame. What happened, what changed, what evidence showed, what decisions were taken, and why. Residual risk must be recorded in the risk register with owners and due dates, and compensating controls should be tracked until durable fixes ship. Budget asks should attach artifacts that show time saved, blast radius reduced, or regulatory exposure avoided, so leaders understand value in their units. Lessons must feed playbooks, training calendars, detection content, and architecture roadmaps. Nothing learned should die in a slide deck or an email thread. In conclusion, treat incident response as a living program with policy, plan, and playbooks that align scope, roles, and authority, and that are rehearsed until ordinary. Publish and maintain a RACI with named backups, keep communication channels ready with on-call rotations and escalations, and wire detections from SIEM, EDR, and cloud sources into case creation with calibrated triage criteria. Define severity, impact, and decision gates clearly. Handle evidence with chain of custody rigor, and coordinate legal and privacy duties against real timelines. Schedule tabletop exercises and technical drills to validate roles, tooling, and timing. Select integrated tooling that supports the documented workflow, and track program metrics that show trend-level improvement. As concrete next steps, announce the program kickoff. Verify and repair the contact tree end-to-end, and set a date this month for the first tabletop so the organization proves its readiness before the next alert tests it. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.